This study was motivated by a policy question from Malaysia, then a country with one of the fastest and most comprehensive COVID vaccination programs back in 2021. Specifically, number one, what is the optimal dose interval between primary vaccination and booster doses? And secondly, are the vaccines administered safe in the first place for the vaccination program to continue as is the first generation vaccines? Now, to this end, we conducted a three-part study. Number one, a test negative design to study the VE against infection, the time dynamics of VE against infection. Number two, a retrospective cohort amongst the confirmed COVID cases to study VE against severe outcomes. And number three, a case-based hospital monitoring data from dive into the data from case-based hospital monitoring to understand better the safety aspects of the first generation vaccines that were administered in Malaysia. So the data that is used here is nationally comprehensive administrative data, all consolidated from a wide range of data sets covering COVID outcomes and even contact tracing as a proxy for exposure, differential exposure risk amongst different subsets of population. All of the replication files for this study, for the VE part of this study, can be found on GitHub here. So the first set of the findings, we find that against infection, there is firstly very little waning exhibited amongst those who receive the AstraZeneca vaccines, but there is some degree of waning amongst those who receive Pfizer primary vaccines and the Sinovac primary vaccines. Respectively, these are the viral vector platform, mRNA vaccines, and inactivated vaccines. The other thing that struck us is that while at the start of amongst those who were newly vaccinated, Sinovac and Pfizer mRNA and inactivated vaccines were highly comparable, but after 3 to 4 months, mRNA vaccines appear to still offer much more protection than the inactivated vaccines. Against ICU admission, there is very little waning, but the inactivated vaccines, Sinovac vaccines, CoronaVac specifically, demonstrated much lower VE. The same goes for death, but the difference is not as stark. Now, in terms of safety data, amongst the adverse events of special interest, ASIs, 1 to 21 days post-vaccination, the outcomes are rare across all three platforms, and this applies both in general, headline, and by age, splitting between those who age below 60 and those who are aged above 60. Now, there are some caveats. This study was conducted primarily Delta dominant period with strict NPIs. So whether this can be replicated in a state that is much more reflective of endemicity is unclear. The second one is that with Omicron and this widespread transmission of COVID, the counterfactual for evaluating risks against benefit may need to be rethought. More specifically, should the counterfactual be a situation where an individual is vaccinated but not infected, or should it be vaccinated plus booster versus and infected with COVID? This may inform this type of rethinking in terms of thinking about risk-benefit calculus ought to be done in light of the new VOCs. Thank you.